Hello students, welcome to this video tutorial on adding integers supernote, part B, method 2, the number line. So I hope you've gotten really good at using integer tiles for your adding integer questions. So I'm going to give you another method, which is also a fairly easy method to remember, and that is with using number lines. Okay, so the only thing is you got to have some number lines, and if you don't have number lines, you can quickly draw them. You can draw them with a ruler, or you can draw them without a ruler and just a bunch of little ticks. Okay, so let's go through the steps on using a number line to solve addition of integers using a number line. Okay, so step 1, we mark the position of the first integer. This is your starting point. Number 2, the sign of the second integer tells you what direction to move, and the number of the integer tells you how far to move. Number 3, your finishing point is your answer. Number 4, conclusion statement. Okay, let's start with example 1. All right, positive 1 plus positive 5. So let's continue on our little lesson here on writing integer problems using standard form. So whenever we have a positive integer, we take away the brackets and we take away the positive sign. And then we're left with plus, and the second integer is 5. So we're left with something very simple, aren't we? Let me increase the width of my pencil here. Okay. So here we go. Let's use the rules, the steps. Number 1, mark the position of the first integer. Well, the first integer is positive 1. So I'm going to mark it right here with a big dot. Okay. Step number 2, the sign of the second integer tells you what direction to move. So the sign of the second integer is positive. Positive means move to the right. The number tells you how far to move. Well, how far do we move? We move 5 places to the right. So let's count this out. Remember, our first starting point is not a step. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'll put a big arrow right there. Okay? Step 3, your finishing point is your answer. So what I like to do is I like to circle the answer right here. And then finally, a conclusion statement. So how easy is that? So therefore, positive 1 plus positive 5 equals, and then we look over here, positive 6 or 6. And that makes a lot of sense because look at back to our addition statement in standard form. This is just asking you what is 1 plus 6. We didn't need to know any integer rules to know that the answer was going to be 6. Okay, so let's continue using these number lines. Example 2, negative 3 plus negative 3. All right, so in standard form, okay, if the first integer is negative, we could take off the brackets. So negative 3 is simply written as negative 3 without the brackets. We have the addition sign, and the second integer is also a negative 3, but because it's the second integer, we have to keep the brackets in there. So this is how this statement would be written in standard form. Okay, let's use the rules, the steps. Step number 1, mark the position of the first integer. All right, so the first integer is negative 3. So I'm going to mark it right there. Number 2, the sign of the second integer tells you what direction to move. So the sign is negative. Now because it's negative, I'm going to move left. And the number tells you how far to move. The number is 3, so I'm going to move left 3 spots. So let's count it out, okay? 1, 2, 3. And then I'll put an arrow here, and then I'll circle the finishing point. That's going to be my answer. Concluding statement, therefore, negative 3 plus negative 3 equals negative 6. Okay? Pretty easy, right? Okay, let's go on to example 3. Negative 4 plus positive 9. So let's rewrite this in standard form. First integer is a negative, so we could take off the brackets. We have an addition sign, okay, an operation, And then we have a positive integer. Remember, positive integers, we take off the brackets, we take off the positive sign. So we're left with this as the statement in standard form. Okay, let's work it out on the number line. Step 1, mark the position of the first integer. Right there. Number 2, the sign of the second integer, which is positive, means we are moving to the right. And the number of the integer tells us how far to move. So we're going to move to the right 9 places. So just be careful counting this out, okay? Remember, the first where you're starting is not a step. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Draw an arrow there and then circle your finishing point. So our answer should be positive 5. So let's rewrite that as our conclusion statement. Therefore, negative 4 plus positive 9 equals positive 5, or simply 5 in standard form. Okay, so let's go on to example 4. So example 4, we've got something different here. We've got 3 integers being added together. So the question is, does this method work if we have more than 2 integers being added together? Well, let's test it. First, let's rewrite this statement in standard form. Negative 2 is our first integer, so we could take off the brackets. Negative 3 is our second integer, but because it's not the first integer, we cannot take off the brackets. And then our third integer is positive 7. Positive integers, we take off the brackets, we take off the positive sign. So this is how we would rewrite this statement in standard form. Okay, so let's see if we can modify the rules to make it work for more than 2 integers. Let's start with our starting point, negative 2. Okay, the second integer tells us, negative 3 tells us that we're going to move to the left 3 points. Okay, we move to the left because the sign of the integer is negative. So let's try that. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so here's where we end up at negative 5. Now, consider this our new starting point. Okay, now let's use the rule number 2 again. Look at the sign of the second integer, or in this case, the third integer. It's a positive sign, so that means we're moving to the right 7 places. Remember, this is our new starting point. So from this point, we're going to move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7 right here. And our new ending point is positive 2. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's rewrite or write our conclusion statement by rewriting the question. Negative 2 plus negative 3 plus positive 7 equals, and we're left with the answer positive 2, or in standard form 2. Okay, so now I've given you another method to use in any adding integer problem. Okay, thanks for watching this part of the video. Bye.